I'm Robert, and today I'm going to take this image from here to here, all in Lightroom. I'm going to use the grad tool to adjust the sky. Then we will use the brush tool to make subtle adjustments throughout the image, resulting in a very polished look. Let's get started with our base edit. We'll scroll down to the bottom, make sure we're on the current version. We're not going to be applying a vignette to this image, so we'll skip that. Let's go to Constrain Crop, zoom in on our horizon, and let's straighten this image out. There we go. Let's move up, remove chromatic aberrations, and enable profile corrections. Let's fix some of that barrel distortion and vignetting caused by my ultra wide angle lens. I was using a Canon 40D with a Dokina 11-16. This is a very difficult beach to get access to. Luckily, one of my followers on Instagram was able to get me in. Let's go up to sharpening, key in 100, hold down Alt, and let's apply a mask. We're going to sharpen everything except for the sky. Next, let's go up. We're going to skip the color panel, and we're going to go to the basic panel. Let's darken the sky by bringing the highlights down, and let's bring our shadows up. A bit much, so I'm going to bring it back down. That looks pretty natural. Now we'll use the white slider and black slider to set our exposure as well as our contrast. I'm going to bring the white slider up until the histogram starts to clip. You'll be able to see it clipping up here in this triangle, and then I'm going to back it down just a little bit. So let's go up. We're clipping, back it down. So we'll go to 25. We're going to do the same with the black slider, bring it down, clipping, bring it back up. So now we have a perfect exposure set as well as our contrast. Now that we have our base edit done, we can start using the tools. Let's grab the grad tool, pull it down over the sky. While holding shift, it'll create a straight line. So first thing, let's darken the sky a little bit. And now let's bring up the saturation to make it more vibrant. We'll go to 60. We have a bit of a magenta cast here, so let's use the tint slider to correct that a little bit. Now the clouds are a little bit more white. Maybe we can affect that a little bit more by using our color temperature. That looks good. I'm going to brighten up the sky a little bit. Now let's press O for overlay. We can see we're affecting everything in this area, but we only want to be working on the sky. So what we can do is go down to range mask, click on luminance. We'll grab our pointer and click in the sky. Now you can see that Lightroom just masks off this bright area, which is the sky, but does not affect anything here. This is a quick and easy way to mask off your sky so you can make local adjustments. So let's press O to turn off our mask, and we can see the final results. Let's check a look at a before and after. So here's before, a little bit washed out, not a lot of color. Here's after, a little better exposure. We fixed some of the color issues, and overall just a nicer looking sky. So now let's dive into some of the details in this image. We're going to do that with our brush tool. So grab your brush tool, make sure you have auto mask turned on, press O to turn on our overlay, and let's brush in this arch rock here. So we spilled over a little bit here on the beach. Just hold down Alt. It turns your brush into an eraser. We can erase this area. So we're going to press O, turn off our overlay. So now we can make some adjustments. I'm going to make this rock just a little bit darker. Now that we've darkened this arch rock, it's making our sand and our houses look a little bit bright. So let's click on New. Let's paint in this area too. Pressing O for overlay so I can see where I'm working. I'm going to brush in all of this bright area. and I spilled over a little bit here. Pressing Alt to make an eraser. O to turn off our mask. And same thing, I'm just going to bring the exposure down so it looks a little more natural. That looks good. Let's take a look at our before and after for our brush work that we've done so far. So here's before, a little too bright and washed out. After, we have a much more natural look. Now let's keep going with our brush work. Click on New. And let's work on the foreground. I'm going to brush in all of these foreground rocks. They're a little bit dark, so I'm going to bring up the exposure, and I'm also going to add some texture into them to help bring them out. Our foreground is going to help anchor this image. So we have them all painted in. Let's bring up the texture first. And I'll bring up the exposure now. We'll go up just 0.2 of a stop. So they're just slightly brighter, but now they're sharper. I like adding sharpness into my foreground, so it helps draw your eye in here first. I'm trying to get the viewer to look through the image from the foreground all the way through till the background. To help accentuate this foreground, let's get a new brush. And I'm going to paint in some of this white water. Using auto mask makes this really easy. In this area, all I want to do is brighten it up a little bit. So let's bring it up. That's a bit much, so I'll back it down. So same thing, we'll just go with 0.2. So let's take a look at all of our brush work here. Here's before. These front rocks are a little bit dark, lacking some sharpness. And our water is slightly less bright. So here's after, a little bit brighter on the water, a little brighter on the rocks, and we also added texture. So in this image, we brushed 4 different areas, as well as a grad filter over the sky. Let's take a look at what the image started out as. Here's before, and here's after. Not a huge change, but the image looks much more refined and polished now. Let's take a look at the settings I was using. I was at 1/4 of a second, f13, and ISO 200. 1/4 of a second is one of my favorite shutter speeds. We have just the right amount of water action in the foreground. You can see the water splashing here and rushing over the rocks, but just off of the foreground, we have a lot of texture and natural look. If we were to use a longer shutter speed, this would be more smoothed out and we'd be losing the natural texture of the ocean. If we were using a faster shutter speed, we'd barely have any movement in the foreground. So generally I like to be between 1/30th of a second and about a 1/2 a second. I hope you liked watching me use the brush tool. It's very easy to use, especially when you have auto mask applied. Just take a step back, look at your image, and look for small areas that you can brush in and tweak. No need to make huge adjustments, just a bunch of small ones will really add up. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.